1999, a 17-year-old girl was murdered in Baltimore County, Maryland. Within weeks, the justice system decided it knew who was responsible. But deciding isn't the same thing as proving. In the case of Adnan Syed, the question isn't who committed the crime. It's whether the system that claimed to find the truth ever truly looked for it. This is System Error, a podcast about cases where the process matters as much as the outcome. Hae Min Lee disappeared on January 13th, 1999. Her body was discovered weeks later in Leakin Park. Adnan Syed, her ex-boyfriend, was arrested and later convicted of first-degree murder. The prosecution's case relied primarily on three pillars: cell phone tower data, witness testimony from Jay Wilds, and a reconstructed timeline of Adnan's afternoon. Years later, much of this evidence would be challenged by journalists, legal experts, and appellate courts. My argument today is not that Adnan Syed is definitively innocent or guilty. My argument is this: the justice system itself functions as the true antagonist in this case, not because of malice, but because of its structural failures. This episode of System Error is supported by Audible. Audible gives listeners access to investigative journalism, long-form nonfiction, and court-reported narratives, the kind of stories that demand time, patience, and attention. For your first month, get 50% off your Audible subscription. And now, let's get right back to it. To understand why the justice system becomes the antagonist in Adnan Syed's case, we first have to understand how the system tells stories. Trials are not neutral reconstructions of reality. They are narratives, structured, selective, and constrained by time. In Adnan Syed's trial, prosecutors were tasked with answering one core question: can we present a version of events that sounds coherent enough to convict? That question is not the same as, is this version of events true beyond meaningful doubt? The prosecution's timeline depended on narrow windows of time, minutes that had to line up perfectly between school dismissal, alleged murder, phone calls, and burial. But human memory does not work in minutes. Witnesses remember impressions, not timestamps. Yet the justice system demands precision, and when it can't find it often manufactures confidence instead. Cell phone tower evidence was introduced as objective, technological proof. To a jury in 1999, this sounded definitive. But years later, experts clarified that incoming calls could not reliably determine location. That disclaimer existed at the time, but it was not emphasized in court. This is not a mistake of ignorance. It is a failure of framing. The system didn't lie, but it also didn't slow down long enough to explain uncertainty. Jay Wilds was the prosecution's central witness. Without Jay, there is no coherent case. And yet, Jay's testimony changed repeatedly. Not once, not twice, but multiple times across police interviews and trial appearances. Each version aligned more closely with the prosecution's needs. This raises a crucial question: when does a witness become a collaborator in storytelling rather than a source of truth? The justice system is built on incentives. Witnesses are pressured, prosecutors are rewarded for convictions. courts are rewarded for efficiency. None of this requires bad intentions, it only requires momentum. Once a narrative begins moving forward, stopping it becomes costly, legally, politically, and emotionally. So inconsistencies are reframed as growth, contradictions become clarifications, and doubt is treated as obstruction. This is where the system stops behaving like an investigator and starts behaving like an antagonist. After a conviction, the justice system undergoes a transformation. Its priority is no longer truth, it's finality. Appeals are not designed to relitigate facts. They are designed to protect procedure. This means that even strong new questions often fail to meet the threshold for reconsideration. The system asks, was the process followed? Not, did the outcome reflect reality? In Adnan Syed's case, this created a paradox. The more time passed, the harder it became to challenge the verdict. Not because the case became stronger, but because reopening it would threaten institutional confidence. The antagonist here is not a person, it is inertia. This podcast is not an argument for certainty. It is an argument for humility. If Adnan Syed is innocent, then the justice system failed to protect an individual from irreversible harm. If he is guilty, then the justice system still failed. By relying on evidence and testimony that cannot withstand scrutiny over time. In both realities, the system resists the same thing: re-examination. Justice is not weakened by doubt, it is strengthened by it. A system that cannot tolerate uncertainty will always choose a villain, even when the truth is unresolved. And that's it for our show today. You have been listening to System Error, written and hosted by Quinn Iwasaki, produced independently. Music also provided by Quinn Iwasaki. Thank you for listening. And just remember, justice fails not when it is questioned, but when it refuses to question itself. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night.